Well, hello everyone. I am kind of in disbelief that we're back here doing this again for Dragon Ball Fighters, but we have a whole new patch, we have a new DLC character on the way, and I imagine with that character there's going to be another patch for Dragon Ball Fighters, so we're kind of eating good as Dragon Ball Fighters fans, I think, because when there's changes to the game, it just brings the game up to people's attention. People want to jump in, try out the new patch, and see what's new with the game and everything like that. So it's sort of a weird place to be. I kind of figured that the last patch video I did for this game would be the final one, but here we are. No such thing as a final patch for Dragon Ball Fighters, it seems. And we got a lot to go over as the entire cast has been changed, and there's a couple of new system mechanic things to be discussing. So without further ado, let's get into it and discuss system mechanics in this video. To get things started, we have to discuss a key charge again, because Bandai Namco wants to believe that this can somehow be a relevant mechanic. But they've decreased the time it takes for you to cancel out of key charge. Previously, you had to wait quite a while in order to actually cancel out of it. In addition to that as well, Dragon Rush, while going full screen, could still be sniped by some zoning. Like with Ki Blast, right? So, not really a good anti-Ki Blast tool. And I guess Bandai Namco had an issue with that. So how do they buff it exactly? Well, they reduced the amount of time it takes for you to actually cancel your key charge. It's pretty quick, before you were held down for maybe like a quarter of a second, half a second. But you can pretty much almost immediately, as soon as you see the key charge itself, you can immediately cancel out of it. And in addition to that, they made it so that if you perform Dragon Rush out of a key charge, you deflect Ki Blasts. I guess they want you to try and throw people zoning you from full screen. This kind of feels like more of like a casual option because honestly, someone is going to see this. They're going to put out a hitbox. They're going to hit you out of that Dragon Rush. Like this isn't going to be seen at a high level of play. I guess the one nice thing is that if you somehow fat finger the key charge, you could very quickly at least try to, scramble out of it. Maybe even like BM Dragon Rush somebody, but it's a change. It's here. It's going to be something I think is more relevant for low level and casual levels of play. The next system mechanic change is to Reflect. Previously, there was always just like one version of Reflect, and over time, we've been able to really understand this system mechanic head to toe. Like we've developed countermeasures to it, we've developed metas around it, or just counterplay to it and everything like that. If you reflected, you push the enemy back, things acted quickly, and thus we looked into how do we fight Reflect and how do we use Reflect. We developed things like Reflect proof strings, or Bandai patched in normals to become reflect proof strings and what have you as it is. But we pretty much understood Reflect as a defensive mechanic, and while it is strong, it definitely had some of its shortcomings, and it definitely has felt like it's been power crept over the years just thanks to the onslaught of full screen normals that don't care about Reflect. Reflect used to be, I push you off of me, and unless you were a privileged character, I could potentially make you whiff and then start my turn over again. And now it just kind of feels like a tool to escape certain mix-up situations. And it seems like Bandai Namco wanted to improve Reflect by giving us a new version of it. Now there's a new version of Reflect where if your Reflect connects with the opponent's attack on like the very first frame, and this attack has to be a physical. It doesn't apply to projectiles, doesn't apply to assist. It's a normal button from your opponent. If you reflect it on the very first frame, then you get a perfect reflect. And it changes a couple of things about the situation post-reflect a little bit. The first thing that we do have to note is what exactly changes, and that is going to be to the advantage that the defender has. We'll try to stay on the new patch for this because I don't really need to go back and forth between the two versions unless it's just easier to set up a demonstration. So let's look at the differences between a normal reflect and a perfect reflect, as the community is sort of calling it, just because, perfect reflects. Why not? Perfect. It's perfect. Perfect. Getting into it, if you normally reflected like these normals here, right? Like say you reflect Gogeta 5L, you would be at frame 18 of advantage. If you get a perfect reflect, however, then you get 4 more frames of advantage to work with, actually. We're plus 22 in this situation instead. And so the idea behind this is that it's supposed to open up a new opportunity for the defender to fight back in some of these situations. But at a surface level, it doesn't really look like it accomplishes that. For starters, it's not like the difference between you getting a normal reflect and a perfect reflect are going to change most of the outcomes against reflect proof strings. Like, for example, I got Frieza set to do 5L into 5M here, and let's see what happens between the two. If I get a normal reflect and try to 2M, I get hit. If I try to 5L, I still get hit. Now, if I perfect reflect, I still get hit. Like, my mash, like, this doesn't really change your opportunity to suddenly mash on an opponent. Now, this may change against some block strings, but it's so few and far in between, and it's probably more of a result of your opponent's input timing rather than anything to do with the difference between the two reflects that you probably shouldn't be trying to mash against an opponent after you get a perfect reflect. Like, it doesn't really change that outcome. The things that it does change, though, is that all of a sudden reversaling, namely with a frame 4 reversal, becomes a lot more viable. Now, if there's a block string where usually you would not have a 4-frame gap to use a 4-frame reversal, then perfect reflect actually starts to show some of its application. So Frieza here is set to 5L and 5S me, and if I get a normal reflect, and then I try to 2-3-6 heavy, I get shot on startup, right? Like, it doesn't work. And if I try to level 1 as well, because all of those are frame 4 reversals now as well, I still get shot, you know? Like, it doesn't work. But if I get a perfect reflect, and if I'm able to time this, because it is a little tricky, you can see I'm actually able to start my reversal. Right, so you get a perfect reflect, all of a sudden a frame 4 reversal could work. It is a little tricky to do the input. You saw me try it a couple of times, and I think with practice, it will get a little easier to it. But how much does this like really matter? Well, it might depend on like the reversal that you have or the situation. So it's sort of something to keep in mind. Not to mention as well, like you could go for a 4-frame reversal, but if the opponent just staggered in that block string, right? You know, if they just do something like this, now, you know, it looks good there because Frieza's crouch blocking. But if I just do this, and he blocks that because he didn't swing or do anything else, well, then you kind of look like the fool. Not to mention, too, that, you know, against a super in particular, you could vanish it in response and escape it, unless you're both trading bar. So while it is a nice thing to have, it depends on the situation and the character as far as like the rewards go. Not to mention, too, if you get a stubby frame 4 reversal and you push the opponent way far back, then your reversal could just completely whiff and they can run up and get a punish on you. So I don't really think that's the best application for it. It does depend on the reversal, of course, but I think there's some other applications that you see with Perfect Reflect. Now, one application that sort of comes to mind is how it actually enables better punishes against bad vanishes. So say you're in the corner and the opponent, you know, desperately tries to vanish string you up and they don't true string it. So you actually have an opportunity to reflect the vanish. Previously, you would basically have to settle for a light starter in a situation like this. As you can see, like I can punish this Frieza with a 5L, but if I tried anything else, 2H, you know, was not the button I wanted. But 5 heavy, Frieza would recover. 5M, I could punish Frieza with as well. So it kind of would depend on that situation. But, you know, I could get a medium starter, depending on the character, right? If you had a fast enough medium. But usually you would be selling for like a light starter for stability, maybe getting a medium starter in there. Like, let's try 2M here. 2M also worked, right? But you wouldn't really be able to get a heavy starter. Now, in this situation, because of the extra 4 frames of advantage that the defender has after a perfect reflect, you could actually get a heavy punish in this situation. Thus, you could potentially improve what sort of punish that you get against a bad vanish when the opponent puts themselves into the corner. This is something that I kind of feel like is namely going to apply at like some low level play or in a scramble situation where the opponent thinks they're true stringing you with a vanish, but they mess up and you actually get a reflect and you can see and confirm it real easily. That's sort of like the only way that that comes up. And this isn't the best application of perfect reflect. And I've been saving some of the more stronger applications to talk about now that we've sort of looked at a few situations. Now, the most universally applied instance of a perfect reflect is going to be on wake ups against meaties, because since you are reflecting as soon as you wake up, you are guaranteed to get a perfect reflect. In the previous patch, you would just get a reflect. So Gogeta Blue does his knockdown, I reflect it, and if he just does that one JL here in this situation, we are pretty much even. And I think Gogeta has maybe a little more activity right here, but we're effectively completely even in terms of our advantage. Now let's look at the Okizeme situation in the current patch, where once you are put into a situation where you're waking up and the opponent is using a jumping attack or any sort of attack to meter you, you are guaranteed a perfect reflect because, well, you're waking up and canceling your wake up into a perfect reflect or into reflect. So it's going to connect on frame 1, your opponent's media is going to be active and collide with that first active frame of reflect, and thus you get a perfect reflect every single time against a meaty on wake up, and that changes the situation. Like here, against this instant air dash jump light Okizeme from Gogeta Blue, we see here that now Goku is +4 instead of just +0. Goku actually has a small advantage in terms of this skirmish. So what does that change? So now let's take a look at the situation where Gogeta Blue is pressing his offense, right? He gets the knockdown, he jumps in with the double jump L's at me, right? And then he's going to press like 5L. Because he's canceling like that momentum backwards with that JL, that second one anyway, he's going to land right next to us, and basically, if we choose to mash, here's the outcomes. We clash with our lights. Now I win there because the bot's doing recording, but the first light is the instance where we actually clash. If I try to press with 2M instead, well, he beats me. He beats me pretty cleanly in that situation. So how does perfect reflect with that extra 4 frames of advantage change the situation? Now, if we take a look here, we actually sort of get rid of his momentum stall that he does with that second JL and push him back even farther. While we still clash with our far lights, what happens if I press 2 medium? My 2 medium mash that completely lost in the previous situation in the old patch because we didn't have perfect reflect, all of a sudden wins there. So now Gogeta Blue has to change his whole pressure around the fact that perfect reflect is in the game. And well, the first thought you might think if you're a Gogeta Blue player is, well, then what if I just go ahead and like 2L my way in? Well, that's really not advisable because you are being pushed back farther. So far, 2L even whiffs at this range here. Like Goku would have to actively put out a hurt box in order to get clipped by that. And again, if I stick out a higher priority medium normal, then that happens. Like Oki as a whole, Oki as we understand it against Reflect has changed across the board if you're a character that uses a jump normal option in order to do Okizeme. Now, such changes are far too numerous for me to spend the next eternity going over. I'm not about to break down every single knockdown, every single common Okizeme setup that we see and how everything has suddenly changed. I'm simply posting one example here to make y'all aware that, hey, Okizeme is going to be different. Like the whole situation post-Reflect, our Reflect-proof ideas that we had previously no longer apply in Okizeme because a perfect Reflect is guaranteed. So when it comes to knockdowns and things like say, very common ones, such as a jump heavy finisher, right? This situation is now changed because instead of, the defender being +2, they're now like +6. This also means that because Reflect is stronger on Okizeme, it means any way that you get around perfect Reflect is also stronger. Things like using Ki Blast as your Okizeme becomes stronger because those are immune to Perfect Reflect. Like that situation stays the same. So if you're able to use a projectile as part of your Okizeme, then you don't have to worry about Perfect Reflect. You just go about business as you did before. Additionally, if you use an assist to cover a reflect option on wake up, right? Say you chase an up tech with like a jump jab or something like that, then you use your assist to cover the grounded wake up. You also don't have to deal with perfect reflect. Like those situations will be the same, and I think they are more attractive in this patch because of perfect reflect and how it's going to change a solo Okizeme jump in going forward now. It's kind of crazy to think about. Now, before I can really talk about what I think is going to be the second most important application of Z-Reflect, I have to talk about another change which happened to Vanish in relation to this. Now, if you get a Perfect Reflect and you Vanish, your Vanish has iframes on its startup, so you just dodge anything and everything here. So I'll try to demonstrate here using the dummy running up. Now, you know, I very clearly dodge that Frieza assist. Now, if I do it early, you know, I'm still dodging the assist. But if I delay it and I get the right timing, right? Like, if there's an active assist on me or an active projectile or active anything on my Vanish, then I get completely blown up. But that will never be the case if I get a Perfect Reflect. Like, a Perfect Reflect will always, and I mean always, dodge and get out of the way of any sort of assist like that. Okay, but how far does the invincibility extend? Not really is the answer. Now, the iframes that Vanish gets after you perform a Perfect Reflect only apply during the startup of the Vanish. Once you reappear and you start attacking the opponent, all of the normal Vanish rules are back in play yet again. So, you know, if you have like the usual counterplay of like staggering, reacting to the Vanish with a 2H, for example, well, then you're still going to be able to anti-air the Vanish. And pretty much everybody looked at this and said, well, then what's the point of these iframes on Vanish? And it's not to do with a single character's pressure. It's not to do with dealing with stagger pressure. It's to deal with something else entirely. Now, we're going to jump back to the previous patch just to look at the Super Dash High-Low mix-ups that you could do before and how Reflect usually played a part into that one. It basically just sort of killed the mix-up itself, but the pressure itself would still continue. So let's say, for example, that, you know, I'm trying to get out of this and I have Gogeta Blue run up to me. He calls Android 17 A assist because he's always going to be paired with that character at a high level of play. And let's say I try to Reflect and Vanish out. Well, because he recovers from the Super Dash, Gogeta has all of his actions again. He can react to my Vanish with a Vanish, so we just traded meter, and I'm still back in the corner. Like, nothing really was accomplished, and in fact, depending on the timing of everything, he could even get a 2H anti-air on this Vanish of mine. It also gets worse if we have him do this with, like, a faster assist, right? Like, say I Reflect this, you know, I'm stuck in. I don't have an opportunity to really Vanish out. The assist is going to lock me down here in place, and Gogeta is just able to run up to me and continue his offense again. I may have avoided the mix-up, but I'm still at a very big disadvantage here. And if there's, like, a bit of a delay in when that assist is active as well, and say I try that same bit of counterplay, you know, if my timing is a little poor, right? You know, say I don't get that Vanish soon enough. 17 here is just a little too slow. I'll try something like this. There you go. Right? Like, say, like, you have an assist timing that actually frame traps any sort of option I could do after that Reflect. Like, okay, cool. I deny the mix-up, but I'm still, like, under duress. Like, I'm still under this bit of a knockdown or lockdown situation. Like, there's not really a way out. Reflect doesn't really do much to save you from the situation. It does deny the 50-50 mix-up, but you are still very much under the opponent's offense. Now, with Perfect Reflect in our arsenal and the extra 4 frames of slowdown, the situation is dramatically different. So, Gogeta Blue blocked there, and I think it's because I was a little bit slow on my input, but it's also important that he blocks to show you, like, the worst case scenario. If you are fast enough, if you react quickly enough with this, then you will hit the opponent out of their super dash. The extra 4 frames of advantage you get means that your opponent is still in their super dash animation. And when you're super dashing, you're super dashing. There's no canceling out of a super dash. So you get a perfect reflect against the opponent's super dash when they're trying to set up a high-low 50-50 on you with this. And if you have a bar meter, you get out of the mix-up. You get out of the situation and you put your opponent into the corner. This completely changes like the whole strength of a super dash mix-up on its head. You know, it was hard to call out before. Reflect basically killed the mix-up, but they still kept their offense. Now, if you have the bar to go ahead and vanish out, you just get out. And it's not like their choice of assist all of a sudden is also going to change that situation, right? Like, yeah, this guy does like Frieza assist. Well, you are invincible on startup. Like, I can vanish out despite the fact that the assist is meeting me here. We effectively have a safer guard cancel against a super dash mix-up. If you react to the super dash, if you can do that with your reflect, get a perfect reflect, and you have the bar, you're just out of the mix-up, and that is crazy. And if you are a little bit slow with it, then you make the opponent block it, but you're hitting them with the meaty vanish anyway, I think, if you're on time with it. So it's not like they can 2H you or anti-air you or counter vanish you or anything like that. You just get out. And I think this is probably one of the strongest applications of this perfect reflect in the game currently. And I think it's very important that we have something like this because super dash assist mix-ups are a lot more prevalent in this patch because of the next big system mechanic change I want to talk about. Now, I am jumping out of order on the patch notes, but this change is so big that I kind of need to bring it up a little bit earlier just to address it before we talk about some of the other changes, because this fundamentally changes the game. Previously, assists had a fairly decently long cooldown. Your A and B assists had about a 6-second cooldown, and your C assist had about a 16-second cooldown, I think. So this meant that after you called an assist, there was a bit of downtime before you could activate it again. And traditionally speaking, you would be able to get about 3 full of an A or B assist calls in before your C assist came back. Your timing might vary depending on what assist that you have available and when the character disappeared to start the cooldown itself. But, you know, generally speaking, there was a bit of a downtime between your assists, which just meant that there were sort of power troughs for neutral, downtime for your mix-ups and whatnot, because, you know, if I go up to Gogeta here and I go for a stagger, right? And now I need a stagger pressure, right? We took one risk right there, and by the end of my block string previously with an A assist or a B assist, I would not have the assist up and ready for a mix. I would have to take 2 risks, 2 stagger points during my offense with my assist on cooldown, one to regenerate, start the regeneration of the assist, and the second stagger would be to get the assist to fully regenerate. This just, you know, led to that very sort of stagger-heavy game plan where at some point, you needed a stagger. And if your character really couldn't stagger that well because of their normals, they were a little bit weaker about using their assists. For whatever reason, after all these years, Bandai Namco has decided to reduce the cooldowns. Now, they've tweaked with C assist cooldowns for a bit, and now C assist is at probably the shortest cooldown it's ever been at, 12 seconds. But A and B assists have had their cooldown reduced to 3 seconds. Like, this is insane. A and B assists regenerate twice as fast as they did before. And the cooldown on a C assist just seems monumentally long now. I mean, if you got a fast recovering assist, you can get 4 A and B assist calls off during the cooldown of your C assist. So you might be asking, well, then aren't C assists just, like, dead? Not necessarily. I do think that, like, double C assists are dead. Like, you are trolling if you play with that, and that is going out to all of y'all online. You trolled before, you are definitely trolling now. But this also changes a lot of things, right? Because if you have an A and B assist, and you use it, and then, you know, you start your offense, you only need a single stagger to get that assist to regenerate. That is crazy. You know, that means, right, like if I do this and I go for a mix-up with a character that can actually use it, right, and I start a stagger, I take that one stagger, by the time my block string's done, my assist is back up and I can go ahead and do a super dash 50-50 on you again. And if you got 2 of these assists, you can just alternate back and forth between all of this stuff. Like the oppression session that we are about to put people in is insane with these low cooldowns. And you might be thinking, again, why ever run a C assist? Well, think about this situation too, right? If both of my assists are on cooldown, right, and I take that one stagger opportunity, well then, my one A assist, my one B assist is going to come up in time for me to then use it for a mix-up. Like, I'm not really punished with the long C assist cooldown anymore because, oh, I can still, at the very least, use my A assist very easily, very frequently to make up for that long C assist cooldown. I do think it means that some C assists will just like disappear. Like, I don't think you're going to be using a B seam assist unless you just want that C assist for neutral, because any sort of stray hit converting to a full combo is nice. But unless you're playing with like a heavy lockdown C assist, I don't really see why you would use too many C assists, or you just need like a neutral confirming assist. And hey, that C assist for one of your characters seems to be the best. I do think that like double C assist comps, which were already troll, are fundamentally unplayable now, and you need at least one A or B assist at a time on your team in order to play. Not to mention too that like if you lose that one A or B assist and you're forced to play with only a C assist backing against someone who's playing with an A and B assist, that just sounds like hell. So I don't know where C assists are going to be in the patch going forward. I think that like at a team start, running one A and B assist and one C assist is okay. But if you lose a character and you're stuck with a C assist, that just feels really bad. So I'm not sure what the state of C assists are, but A and B assists are absolutely cracked. Not to mention too that the risk that you have to take on your offense now to even force a mix-up is nearly gone. You just need one simple stagger. One stagger is all you need, and your assist is online. Like this is fundamentally crazy. Dragon Ball FighterZ is in turbo mode now, and I can't really like sell this enough. Neutral is more crazy, defense is more crazy, offense is more crazy. Like everything is crazier. There is always an assist off cooldown now, and the stronger of an assist you have, the better off you are. In addition to the changes to the assist cooldown, Z tagging also has a reduced cooldown. In the previous patch, it took about maybe 10 seconds, I want to say, in order for the assist to fully regenerate, even if it was an A and a B assist. Compare that to the current patch. The cooldown is about like 7 seconds, I want to say. It's close to that point, so it will be up a little bit more frequently. I don't think it changes too much of the situation, since by the time you wanted to like tag back into another character or call their assist in a combo, they usually would be up anyway by the 10-second mark. But again, the game pace is just going to be a little faster overall, what with the mental stack and everything, due to assists and Z changes having more characters active more often. Now we talked about some of the crazy stuff. We have to look at Sparking Blast now, which has a bit of a nerf, actually. So previously, it was 0 on block, and, you know, since you were falling to the ground, the character that Spark would be at a slight disadvantage, about like -1 frame, actually. But, you know, if you block Spark in the air, this meant that the person who sparked against you was actually plus. So if you were in the middle of jumping or something, and they sparked on you, then it was the person who sparked's turn, which is a little counterintuitive, I guess, because, you know, in most other games, blocking is how you bait out some of these defensive mechanics, but Dragon Ball is its own thing. Now the block stun has been reduced. So now it's actually -4, -5 on block now. So it's not punishable. It is still safe. But if you get into a situation where you block Spark while airborne, it's not so much in the opponent's advantage right now. It's still clearly like Gogeta's turn, but it's like -2 instead of -4. So the situation's a little bit different here. Additionally, in Sparking Blast, you have more control over your jumping momentum. So previously, you pretty much had like the same control over your gravity in sparking as you did without sparking. And now, once you spark, you just have a lot more momentum and control over it. You know, once you apply the floating and stuff like that, like it moves a lot faster when you have sparking right now. And you might be wondering, what the hell's the point of this? Like, in neutral, maybe it helps you rush down the opponent more. It just gives you more free floating and stuff like that. But its potential for some mix-up play is actually disgusting. Courtesy of Muzan's Twitter page, he's posted some of these clips of what you can do with the new sparking movement that you can get. I mean, the floating is diabolical. And, you know, for proof of concept, back to the original side. And, of course, you know, it continues here. Like any sort of mix-up, any assist gives you a mix-up, right? Because you can just float back down to the original side. It's pretty crazy. I highly recommend that you lab that out because, you know, it's something that you're all going to have to learn how to do. And I think it's pretty much as simple as just holding the direction that you want to go to and what side you want to go to after you instant air dash and sparking. So no one's blocking sparking mix-ups anymore. I'm sorry. The next change is to guard cancel. Previously, if a guard cancel was blocked high in the air, like say somebody did a jump bait and blocked guard cancel, or you got an accidental air guard cancel and then the opponent blocked it, you previously just fell all the way down to the ground and there was nothing you could do. So this would suck a lot of the times, especially in situations where you got an accidental guard cancel. But this also meant that the opponent could pretty easily use sparking to bait out a guard cancel and punish it. And from here, you were just pretty much dead for such a play. Now, in these situations, if a guard cancel is blocked high in the air, the character that was guard canceled in can actually take an air action. There is still a little bit of recovery here, so it might not be completely safe, but it's certainly an improvement from having to watch your character fall to the ground and then just eat a medium starter they can do nothing about. It also means that these spark baits are a little bit weaker. Obviously, like if you're low enough to the ground, you're still landing and probably taking a hit. But in case they get a little too high, well, you can still try and escape out of it. You don't just have to sit there and take the blow. So it's kind of nice, actually. The final change is to limit break. I mean, previously, the only bar that meter break would give you was that one initial bar on incoming when your character took the round start position, basically. And, you know, limit break has been in the game for a while. It's been a bit of a controversial mechanic, I guess, just because everyone was like, more comeback mechanics. And we thought that Bandai would finally run out of ideas for giving comeback mechanics. But no, they had yet another idea in their arsenal. And we'll go ahead and take a look at it now. And now, once you enter limit break, not only do you get a bar upon round start, but you also just continually generate meter. You just get bar for existing in the game, and once you pair this up with, you know, moving forward towards the opponent, with comboing the opponent as well. I'm doing a very basic B&B right here, but you just passively generate meter, which means in an anchor position, you are constantly generating meter. And if you have sparking as well, I mean, we built 2.5 bars by running forward towards the opponent and doing a B&B from Season 1. Like, they want us to save Spark for this. They want us to have comeback mechanics. They want us to have meter. They want characters who don't really build a lot of bar for themselves to have access to more bar if they're the last character standing. Like, it's okay, I guess, just all right. It's also worth mentioning that this effect also stacks with any sort of effect where you also just freely generate bar as well. Like Super Broly is going to build twice as much passive meter with this buff compared to every other character once he takes like the shirt off. Like that's just there. Like that's just the thing. So yeah, there's that. Anyways, that's it for the system mechanic changes in patch 1.40 of Dragon Ball FighterZ. I like a lot of it. I like most of it. I think I can say. I think Perfect Reflect is interesting. At a surface level, I was kind of like dismissive of it because it didn't seem to change a whole lot, but it might actually have like some crazy details. I need to see what Okazemi looks like. I will say, in a world where Reflect is stronger as a wake up option, baiting Reflect also becomes stronger. Just passively jumping in and baiting it to whiff punish it, or using an assist or using projectiles. Any character that can, just do those things, or any setups that do that, also gain value because of that change. And while the Vanish change doesn't really have a lot of use applications, I think the one really strong use application it has against Super Dash mix-ups is very important. It's very important, and it's going to be because of the big changes to assists. Like the fact that we're playing with such short cooldown assists is nuts to me. I don't know how viable C assists are. I will say that at most you can get away with one on a team, but being stuck with that as your only assist just strikes me as terrible. Limit break change is okay. It's whatever. We just have to accept it. It is what it is. I like the guard cancel change. The fact that, like, hey, if I get an accidental air guard cancel, I don't have to die from it is really nice. The sparking blast changes, I think, are really good. The fact that, like, it's not a +0 situation on grounded block is great. The fact that the defender is on a defensive point is still it's good. It makes sense. It kind of falls in line with other fighting game stuff. Sad to see that empty spark vanish, or empty vanish in spark after a successful hit is, unchanged. That's still a thing. High jump changes. There's going to be some crazy sparking mix-ups and stuff like that. And honestly, I think just with that change, like, it makes solo anchor comeback potential a lot more viable, just because, like, yo, you got 22 seconds, 21 seconds of that sparking timer to just instant air dash mix the hell out of your opponent. If you got a key blast on top of it there, that should be really interesting. The key charge change is whatever. It's meaningless, as is the Dragon Rush change. But the fact that we're still getting patches and support and everything like that is kind of crazy to think about. And I know that there's probably going to be another patch when Goku Super Saiyan 4 Daima drops next year as well. At least I hope so, because once we start getting to the characters, you'll start seeing some of the things that I think need to be addressed. But there's a lot of changes. I'm pretty positive about this patch, outside of a couple of glaring issues. I'm going to be working on the character stuff next week. I just got back from France. I'm pretty tired about that. And I actually have my 1 year anniversary with my current girlfriend coming up. So I don't really have any time to work on this stuff. I'm just going to take it easy for the next few days. But I did want to get out the system mechanic changes video, because I think it was very important to talk about Z Reflect, as well as some of the other stuff going on. Expect the character videos for Dragon Ball FighterZ to start rolling out next week. Thank you all for watching.